things out of compliance, we don't. It's null. The bill doesn't change a thing, except it gets us in compliance. I'll give you a call.
Okay.
We'll see, yeah, for him. You already have.
I will.
We have two in a row here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, they'll start.
Well, it's hard to do it much. I mean, people are working off of
One point they're on this room.
I just keep my head down. I mean, it's military bills. Hearing a hearing, it's they're trying to veterans courts hearing. There's something that's oh, it's like my
Yeah.
as a citizen.
All right, good morning, everyone. We'll call the Veterans Military Affairs and Public Safety Committee to order. Apologize for being a little bit delayed. We're all trying to get back-to-back committee meetings in this morning. Clerk, if you will, please call the roll.
Senator Barfoot, Senator Beasley, Senator Bell, Senator Carnley, Senator Chasteen, Senator Gavan, Senator Hatcher, Senator Jones,
Here.
and Senator Kelly.
All right, we have a quorum.
Yes, sir.
All right, Clerk, if you'll please call the first bill.
Senate Bill 244 by Senator Weaver.
Welcome, Senator Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. SB 244 deals with the expedited definition for a background check for the Board of Medical Examiners. This is a bill that just defines expedited licensure. It was added last year. We looked at this bill then. However, the FBI will not allow ALEA to conduct a national background check for expedited license applicants unless we define this category in statute. So that is what we're doing with this bill.
Got a motion, Senator Bell, second Senator Gavan. Let's establish a roll.
Senator Barfoot, Senator Beasley, Senator Bell, Senator Carnley, Senator Chasteen, Senator Gavan, Senator Hatcher, Senator Jones,
Aye.
Senator Kelly. 7-0.
All right, 7-0, bill's given a favorable report.
Thank you, sir.
All right, clerk, please call the next bill.
Senate Bill 248 by Senator Weaver.
All right, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I began working with my friends at the Department of Corrections during the time we were working on the Deputy Brad Johnson Act. And this is a bill that we think is really important. We think it's important that all K-9 handlers in corrections have arrest powers, and that can be beneficial for several reasons. A lot of times when they are in partnership with other agencies, they are the first person on the scene. So they, as that immediate response, they need that arrest power in that situation. There's just, so many reasons related to teamwork and legal authority. Overall, we believe that providing arrest powers for K-9 handlers in corrections.
So moved.
All right, motion Senator Hatcher, second Senator Gavan. Any objection to using previous roll? Hearing none, so ordered. 7-0, favorable
Thank you, Mr.
report.
Chairman and committee.
Thank you, Senator Weaver. All right, clerk, please call our next one.
Senate Bill 207 by Senator Hatcher.
All right, Senator Hatcher.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 207 provides allows the Board of Examiners for Dietitians and Nutrition Practices to provide a means of uniformity in their licensing requirements.
Motion from Senator Carnley, second Senator Barfoot. This is one of our military package compact bills. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, so ordered. 7-0, favorable report. Thank you, Senator Hatcher. All right, Senator Kelly is in another committee meeting this morning. He's asked me to handle 208. That's another one of our compact bills. This one deals with social work examiners, and it's just part of our military package. Motion Carnley, second Hatcher. Any objection to previous roll? Hearing none, so ordered. 7-0, bill's given a favorable report. All right, Representative Bolton. Good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. HB 265 is an updated version of our current child safety seat law that we've been working on for quite some time. I had a request from the University of Alabama College of Community Health Sciences back in the summer, and we've got together with Voices of Alabama Children, the American Academy of Pediatrics of Alabama chapter, Safe Kids Tuscaloosa, Safe Kids Alabama Children's Hospital, ALEA, and Officer Ronnie Anderson out of Dothan PD, and we've examined and updated all of the current laws to fit the current NHTSA recommendations. What they've done, they've raised the child weights because pediatricians were seeing heavier children than the earlier law was actually addressed to fit. And also we have stiffened up the policy for noncompliance. And that's the basics of the law. It just brings us into compliance with the current NHTSA recommendations.
Senator Gavan.
So, I mean, I get all that sort of stuff, and I know things have changed from when I used to ride in the, I don't know what you'd call it, behind the back seat between the window and just lay out and take a nap on the way somewhere. I admit those probably weren't wise decisions. And we used to tie our seatbelts and ring all the time, as because we didn't wear seatbelts. So times have changed, but one thing I'm concerned about, being the father of 6, and now my baby's in college now, but now I've got grandbabies coming around, is when you start changing up these configurations and all that, not everybody's got as big a vehicle as I've got. And I don't know that, we've thought about a lot of these families that do have basically a 4-door sedan without the 3rd row seat and all that, what they're going to do and fitting their kids in there. And I'm just concerned about that.
Thank you, Senator. You want to address that, or just maybe y'all can talk afterward?
I'm open to talking to anyone about anything. We have gone through a couple of iterations and I made an amendment before I brought it to the floor in the committee in the House to change a couple of things.
Okay. Any other questions? Senator Carney?
I'm sorry, I was just reading through this here, and it says no child under the age of 13 riding the front seat of a motor vehicle.
Yeah, it's been changed to a recommendation and compromised with some committee members in the House. Originally, it came out as a requirement. So what we did, we kind of struck a balance with the concerns of a number of different people. It has, the state of Tennessee has it as a recommendation in their bill also, and their law. And really, that's just, the NHTSA guidelines would prefer it be a requirement. However, it's hard to make people put a child, of a certain size or age in the back seat if they're large, And we just had to say 13 years or younger because that's what their guidelines were. It's actually younger than 13 years.
Yeah, I would just think with the vehicles that we've got in airbag systems that it would be just as safe to. But either way,
it's
just recommended. And
yes, sir. That's the question: is whether a smaller child would be safe if the airbag went off. That was the NHTSA's position. That's the reason that they have it in their guidelines.
Senator Barfoot?
Just a quick question. I noticed on the talks about fines on first, second, third, fourth within a specified period of time.
Yes, sir.
Does that include court cost a part of that?
No, sir.
Okay, so it's just a fine. There would be no court cost on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's the way I read it.
That's the way. We didn't change that particular part. The only thing we did was increased the amount of the fine on successive violations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I'll make a motion for favorable. If anybody, will we have a second? Got a second? Anybody object to using previous roll? Hearing none, so ordered. 7-0, favorable report. Thank you, Representative. All right, clerk, please call the next bill.
SB 251 by Senator Jones.
Okay, this bill relates to public investments and prohibited Chinese entities, and you'll see a list of those entities spelled out in the bill. Most of these are on national lists, and they're all Chinese military entities or those affiliated with the military or those that are blacklisted. And it basically ensures that we're not investing any state dollars in anything that's our biggest adversary. Motion, Senator Bell, second, Senator Gavan. Anybody object to previous roll? Hearing none, so ordered. 7-0, bill's given a favorable report. Right. Clerk, call the next one.
SB 254 by Senator Jones.
Thank you. I'll explain a little bit about what this bill does, and then we'll enter into our public hearing. So many of you are aware that ATV parks have been popping up all over the state, and other states surrounding us, particularly Georgia, have cracked down on a lot of the behavior, I'll use that word, that's been going on in some of these parks. And so what we're seeing is because we have an unregulated system over here in the state of Alabama, folks are flooding in and causing all sorts of problems, crossing the county roads in front of traffic, upwards of 1,000 people on weekends at certain facilities, clear cutting 1,000 acres and muddying up all the people and the property owners downstream, operating at all hours of the night. And so I know there are some probably some tweaks and changes we're going to need to be made to this bill at some point. I've heard some discussion about whether the liability insurance rate should perhaps be lower. We're kind of in the process of looking at looking at liability insurance and what might be an appropriate amount and what the park might be able to afford. And we're also looking at some other language that different members have suggested. So we got a few changes, but one of those I want to go ahead and get on the bill and adopt. We have an amendment you'll have, I believe, with the fiscal notes. This is from the trial lawyers. It basically adds bodily injury or death to the needs or the causes under the liability insurance, which is probably a good suggestion since that tends to happen a lot. So I'll move for adoption of that amendment. Second, Senator Gavan. Any objection to previous roll on that amendment? All right, hearing none, so ordered. Amendment's adopted, and we're on the bill. Let's enter into the public hearing. You'll call the first proponent.
Melody McKay.
All right, and we're going to allow everyone 2 minutes apiece to speak on the bill. Welcome to the Alabama Senate.
Good morning. Okay, so I'm here obviously to speak in support of the bill that would require permitting and inspection of existing and new ATV parks. As a longtime resident and neighbor of an ATV park, we have many issues, and I'm going to list those. First issue, unsafe driving conditions resulting from increased traffic, oversized vehicles and rigs traveling in our area, deterioration of our small county roads, and then high potential for drunk drivers leaving the park. We also encounter illegal operation of ATVs on the roads and highways, trespassing onto our personal property, high consumption of emergency resources responding to calls, environmental pollution impacting the creeks that run through our property caused by loose dirt running off their trails into the streams and creeks. Noise pollution. We can hear those ATVs operating all hours, all night, all day, over the weekends and on Thursday. Retaliatory action from park supporters against park neighbors, including littering, throwing out the sharp objects to damage tires, honking horns, passing our homes, and general threats. They know where we live. Overloaded cell towers and decreased cell phone coverage. You know how when you go to an Alabama game, you can't really use your cell phone? We can't use our cell phones on the weekends because all of the park goers come in and flood the area. Inconvenience of roadblocks and detours implemented to address park guests that impact us neighbors, and then also potential for decreased property valuation. Park supporters believe they should be able to operate unregulated because they're on private property. These issues, though, are not all contained to private property. So I would urge you to please imagine the ramifications of an ATV park opening up next door to your home or your parents' home or your children's home, and how you would feel when having to deal with all these issues, and vote in support of Bill 254.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, please call the first opponent.
Labriska Ponder.
Ms. Ponder here? Okay, let's move on to the next proponent.
Carol Sanford.
Good morning. I'm here in support of the Senate Bill 254. And as a private landowner in the state of Alabama, I've seen firsthand the effect on our community and the extreme amount of land, water destruction that has occurred by these privately owned ATV parks and off-road vehicle parks. These parks have been allowed to operate with almost zero oversight or environmental oversight, primarily because they're a new thing and they are popping up everywhere. There's almost no oversight by local law enforcement because often they are located in rural areas where the law enforcement is stretched thin. They do as great a job as they can do. This has led, because of the nature of where they're riding, this has led to alcohol-related accidents, including dismemberments, even deaths. And this happens on a regular basis. This puts a strain on our emergency services, which are largely volunteer and already stretched over a large rural coverage area. Furthermore, the environmental damage to the creeks, streams, rivers that flows downhill, it causes trash, sediment, and other items to flow downstream. And when water was once pristine and clean, It's now undrinkable, uninhabitable by wildlife. Many creatures that were in these streams are now no longer there because the sediment is so deep at the bottom of the streams. It's unusable even for unusable even for baptisms, which are often still held in creeks because of the extreme sediment. My family and I are lifelong Alabamians, and we have come from a generation of Alabamians. We have a respect for our land, and we have a respect for our neighbors. Other states do not allow parks to operate unfettered and unregulated. Therefore, those that are looking for a kind of anything goes, come on down at a place to party, they come to our state. We are better than this. And by passing this bill, it would show that Alabama cares about their lands, they care about their landowners' rights, and that they will not tolerate a Wild West, anything goes type of attitude, which sometimes comes, which seems to often come with these parks. Nothing in this bill requires a single thing that will shut these parks down. It only requires.
I'm sorry, your time's up.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, clerk, call the next proponent.
Michelle Short.
Hi, welcome.
Hello. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, Mr. Beasley, thank you for your service. As a veteran of a Purple Heart Vietnam, daughter of a Vietnam veteran, I was raised to respect veterans, to respect their rights, and especially respect our freedoms that they fought for. And a veteran's heart is their country and their home. And so we're here today. I'm here today to ask you to support this SB 254, and I'm just going to go through the bill kind of at some of the points that I think is important. I think that any business which is operating as an ATV ride park is basically an amusement park. They are going there for amusement, entertainment, and so with that, they have to be regulated. There has to be some sort of regulations for these ride parks. And why would you not want contracts? Why would you not want this bill to protect you as a business if you're a legit, well-run, well-refined, old business? Nothing in this bill should be offensive to any ATV park. You would want EMS services to have your exact trail location, so when somebody has an injury, they know how to get there. They're not meeting at a point going, hey, wait a minute, you can't get an ambulance down there. You got to take an ATV down here. That needs to be spelled out to help their patrons. I know I've been to many, many races. I don't really go to Alabama football games, but I do like Talladega. And that's the best way I can describe how these ATV parks operate. It's Talladega every weekend. At least with Talladega, they have Alabama state troopers down there directing traffic, which is something we don't have state or locally. Sorry, y'all. If there's watersheds and so forth on these ATV parks, amusement parks, as I call them, who's going to foot the bill when that dam breaks?
That's time.
Y'all are.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir,
Time's
that's
up.
fine, but y'all are. The state's going to pay for that. So I'll just ask that y'all put some rules and regulations in and support Senate Bill 254.
Thank you. All right, we have one more speaker.
Ava Maddox.
Good morning. My name is Ava Maddox. I am a lifelong resident of Cherokee County, and I'm urging you to support Senate Bill 254. As Senator Jones said, ATV parks are popping up all across our state.
Pull the mic down a little bit.
I have worked for a logging company for 10 years, and I know that the U.S. Forest Service has conducted research on the effects that ATVs have on our environment, such as severely eroding soil if not properly managed, disrupting wetland ecosystems, and general habitat destruction, high runoff and sediment production, which degrades our creeks and rivers, creating dust that settles on leaves of trees and underbrush, which leads to ground cover loss. Tire tread size, amount of trail usage, and rider attitude also play a big impact on our environment. Our state currently has no regulations in place to manage these issues in privately owned parks. Riders come from Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, and beyond solely to ride at privately owned parks because they have no regulations and they face no repercussions. Please vote for this to protect the citizens who live in close proximity to these parks. And please keep Alabama beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Maddox. Okay, did Ms. Ponder arrive or any opponent to the bill? Okay, this concludes our public hearing. As I mentioned earlier, obviously we've got some details to work out, but I'd like to get this bill moving forward. You know, I understand that there are a lot of these facilities that are good neighbors, that are acting in good faith and working in their communities, and we don't want to, I do not want to inadvertently punish those who have been good faith actors. So we're going to work to address that issue, but I think we've got to do something to avoid the wild, wild west in some of these areas. Senator Gavan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a lot of these issues that have been raised, you know, should be addressed probably by ADEM or some other things. I just want to point out, I mean, I'm going to help get your bill out of committee today, but one thing on the bottom of page 2, $5 million worth of liability insurance coverage. I mean, there are just several things in here I think are just kind of basically slam the door on about everybody. $5 million coverage is going to be a very expensive policy, and then certainly Senator Carnley could comment on this much more than I could, but my understanding is that, you know, it's not going to cover you from your own acts, which would be, you know, ATV riding for, like, you know, I cannot conceive of where anybody would insure for the, you know, the sediment going downstream. I don't think that's possible to get that kind of policy. So I think, you know, bodily injury, which we've made that amendment, that makes sense. But I think you can start getting beyond that, you're just shutting them down.
I understand, and I'll work with you on that. That's already been raised by several folks that we need to adjust that. And I don't know what the appropriate number is. We're going to have to talk to some folks and the experts, maybe like Senator Carnley, and figure that out.
He's wanting to write the policy.
Senator Kelly.
Yeah, I echo what Senator Gavan has stated about the insurance amounts. I'm a strong private property rights advocate. You and I have talked about some concerns on this bill, and so I appreciate you saying what you're going to do and look at some other possible solutions there. A number of things in here that have some concerns, but thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. I will yield to
Senator Barfoot.
Thanks. I just want to echo Senator Kelly. You know, we talk about private property rights, and I'm appreciative of what you're trying to do and those bad actors that may be out there. But I do think we don't need to lose sight of what the private property rights out there, and this may open the door for other things. And so I'm always concerned about that, but I appreciate what you're trying to do, and I'll vote support to get the bill out of committee today.
Thank you, Senator.
I guess my question, all the speakers, is this from the same park where this is occurring, where they live? The reason I'm asking is we have 2 in my district that are great community places that there is no issues. And that's why I'm just curious if it's all one park that's causing most of the issues. And that's just, I guess, okay. So, okay.
But I have heard from other colleagues here in the legislature that are having some issues in their parts of the state that may not be here this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess Senator Bell just brought up a point I would raise, and I will support your bill moving out of committee. And one of my concerns would be, why is this not a local bill? Because I guess a part of it for me is, I don't know about Senator Barfoot, but I have not heard of any such things here in our region. And I don't necessarily like to weigh into what may sound like a local bill, and I think we spoke briefly about that as well. I do recall, just as Senator Gavan was saying a moment ago, these things really do date me, because I remember riding a dirt bike without a motor, of course, and we were just wheeling through the gravel pits. And so I would imagine hearing those persons who've come before us who are really experiencing some version of a nightmare. And so I thank you for bringing it. But my concern would be whether or not we are weighing into a local bill. And I think a part of what I'm hearing, your question around whether or not, you have them in your district. So that would at least speak to that issue. And I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think you may have indicated that there are persons obviously worth noting in terms of numbers who are coming into the state from out of state to these parks as well. So two quick questions. One is roughly, how many are we talking about, just roughly, that would create even more of a nuisance? And on the local piece, what is the position of the county commission on this particular issue?
I'm happy to address both of those. Those are great questions. Locally, we have seen over 1,000 people in a weekend, and it would be fair to say that the overwhelming majority, am I getting that right, are from Georgia? The overwhelming majority from Georgia, because these are not allowed in Georgia. Are the regulation is so much that they do not operate to this extent and allow the same things that happen here. To your question about a local issue, I think that's a fair question. My concern is I've seen these things over the past few years begin to pop up all over the state. I think we're only going to see it increase, and it's hard sometimes after the genie's out of the bottle to put it back in the bottle. I feel like it's easier to address this now on the front end before it grows into an even bigger problem around the state. And so it might be easier to pass a local bill, but I think as a state, we really need to be looking at how we get on the front end of this. We've had some discussion about maybe allowing a county by county opt-in. So, if there are places that are good neighbors, good friends, not causing any problems, the county can choose not to enter a permitting process. So I'm happy to work with anyone to address concerns as we move forward. Favorable. Got a motion favorable, Senator Carnley?
I just wanted to say I'm supportive. If what I heard you say is that maybe a county opt-in, if it's really a problem there, then that's I think a reasonable solution, sounds like to me. So
thank you for that. All right, got a motion from Senator Carnley. All right, second, Senator Hatcher. I know Senator Bell want to be marked as a no. You want to be added to the roll? Okay, as a no. Okay, no for Senator Kelly. Anybody object to otherwise using the previous roll? Hearing none, so ordered. I believe it's 6-2. Bill's given a favorable report. Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you to our public speakers who came today. We're adjourned.